And now, speaking of payouts, I'm going to talk about top players. And this is something that has come up quite a bit this summer with CEO and Evo, and even at local events where Wes and Lucky and a few others kind of came out and saying, you know what, we're not getting compensated very well here. In fact, I don't think Smashers are getting enough money. And people who get 7th or 5th at CEO are like, well, like this doesn't even pay for my flight. And I feel like if I go through, a 2,000-man event, and I get 7th, which is top 1 percentile, like not like top 0.5 percentile, that you deserve, that they feel very much that they deserve more. And depending on who you talk to, maybe yes, maybe no. My personal opinion, I think you do. But even at local events, Wes and Lucky said, well, these $5 payouts or $5 entry fees aren't really cutting it for us. And they feel, or Wes in particular felt that, well, hey, like, by me being there and by other top players being there, that, well, we incentivize other people to come because we're a hot ticket. We help build a stream because when you have a West versus Lucky or a Lucky versus Johnny, winners semis or winners finals, and you have all these top players, you build your stream. Now West, did have some misconceptions here. He thought that like every commercial that you're running in SSS will make $100. Unfortunately, it's far from that. But point being, he felt that he added value to the event just by virtue of being there, which is, a very fair and valid thing. If you bring like a West Bowls to a desolate region with absolutely no talent or like no top level talent, you bring West there, and I guarantee you that attendance will increase anywhere from 25 to 100% just because they want to see West Bowls. And so that's something I've been actually thinking about a lot lately. And it really comes down to, I'm going to talk about in the sense of like a local tournament. This is where it talks about nationals. Each TO will have their own philosophy. But I think for a local tournament, we really have to ask ourselves, like, what are the goals here? And how do we keep everybody happy? Because the only way we really get the top players more money, it has to come from somewhere. It either comes from the TOs injecting more money somehow. Maybe there's like a pot bonus or whatever, or you're going to have to raise the entry fee. And to be fair, if you double the entry fee, let's say you have 150 people and only 4 people get paid. Well, you have to justify the 100 to 140 people that almost have no chance of ever seeing that kind of money. So you're telling everybody else in the venue that to pay more money for something they're not getting more value in. And so the debate becomes really interesting here because, if the venue fee goes too low, then the top player may say, well, hey, like your tournament's not even worth coming to anymore. Like I can get more money off of streaming. I could be doing other things. And, if I go through this whole tournament and I'm not even guaranteed to win, like I might get a couple $100 for my day. And they consider that to be not worth it. And so you kind of get through this interesting conundrum of chicken where will the top players bail or will something give in? And so I think my thoughts are this. I think you can make everybody happy. And I think for the large part, at least in SoCal, I can't speak on behalf of other regions, but it seems like a general sentiment seems to exist that like, yeah, top players should get paid more. And I think there's a general sentiment of like, yeah, like let's make SSSs and Mayhems or SoCal Coliseum, which is what they're now called, $10 entry fee. And I think so the players that go to a $10 event, the venues tend to be larger and nicer, and there's a lot more setup. So I think for a player that may not cash, they see some value going to a $10 event as opposed to a $5 because the venue's bigger, they can play more friendlies. They get amateur brackets. Sometimes they get round robin pools. And in their perspective, I think they can see the value of paying a little bit more. So I really do hope that, if, in a case where you get into where regions kind of get into this kind of tough situation where there are multiple stakeholders, some benefit, some don't, that I hope that what ends up with the top players is that it doesn't get to the point where top players just come to the bracket. They expect to get paid a lot of money. They don't interact with anybody and kind of act like diva-ish and, just take. Not saying that like SoCal players are like that. Well, Wes is definitely more generous to, play friendlies, give advice, interact. Johnny, Lucky, Hugs, MacD, they've, from our community, from me observing them, they play a lot of friendlies, they interact with, everybody. And I think, they aren't the type of players that would just go like, I'm just going to take my money at this event and make my thousands and just leave and not interact with anybody. But it's an interesting discussion because some regions, it may not be the case where raising the venue or the entry fee to $10 or $15 or $20 may not be justified for the community, and you might have an effect where raising the price significantly may cut out and price out the majority of the players, and they may not come to the event anymore. So it becomes an issue of, well, if you double the venue or you double the entry, but like over 50% of the people leave or don't show up, then you ruin the tournament series. And for a TO, just to empathize with them, like a lot of TOs become TOs not to just feed top players. They come in to do a very thankless job so that they can build the community. So I don't think, when the Crimson Blur does an event or Juggle Guy does an event, he's not thinking like, how do I make the most money for top players? They're envisioning like, okay, how do I make a thriving Smash scene within my local area? How do I give a satisfying experience so that they can grow, they can play, they can have fun, and we can ultimately grow Smash? So I understand from their end. So there's a lot of things to balance out here. And I think for SoCal, I think it'd be really amazing if we did end up raising SSS to $10, and perhaps even take it a step further where we have a merging force of SSSs in SoCal Coliseums, the Mayhems, and we raise the prices up there. Maybe we put it to $10, and like $1 to $2 goes into a major event at the end of a season, and after each tournament, the top 8 or top 16 gets circuit points, and then at the very end of the season, that $1 to $2 gets taken out. Goes towards the final pot at the end of the year, and it goes to a really nice prize pot where everybody's tuned in, everybody's excited because there's this one end of tournament local that or end of season local that everybody's really excited for, has a nice prize pot, and everybody gets excited for. At this point, I feel like I'm kind of rambling, but I think it's important to look at these type of community issues not in a vacuum, because you can always say like, well, yeah, like I want more setups, or yeah, I want people to get paid more, or yeah, like I want cheaper venue fees. But at the end of the day, you have to balance out the variables because there's always pros and cons to everything that you have to consider before you kind of circle knee-jerk reaction to one side without really considering the possible consequences of a trade-off here.